may also be made by phone by dialing 888-970-1444. To comment during the citizens' comment agenda item, please call after the roll call has ended. To comment on a specific agenda item, please call at the beginning of that agenda item. We request that all staff and participants, and including myself, keep microphones muted unless you're speaking. And due to using Zoom for the meeting, I will be asking for comments on each item and looking for people to raise their hands, wave their hands, whatever, for each item. So with that, Lyra, roll call, please.
Amanfor,
Here.
Boyd, Griffin, Morgan,
Here.
Nunley,
Here.
Ospany, Ross,
Here.
Schumacher Hodge,
Here.
Dajabu, Starks,
I see
Wu?
Sajabu here.
Here.
Boyd.
Here.
Okay. You have
All
quorum.
All right, thank you, Lyra. So, items 1 and 2 will be held together tonight. Any other changes to the agenda? Seeing no one jumping up and down and screaming, the agenda is set as printed. So, citizens' comments. Any interested? I'm dealing with wind here now. Anyone interested in submitting public comments may do so by sending them to publiccomments@shra.org or call in at 888-970-1444. Lyra, could you read, please, the citizen comment script?
Sure. While the Commission welcomes and encourages participation in the Commission meetings, please limit your comments to 3 minutes so that everyone may be heard. SHRA provides opportunities for the public to address the Commission at this time in order to listen to opinions regarding non-agendized matters within the subject matter jurisdiction of SHRA. Consistent with the Brown Act, the public comment periods on the agenda are not intended to be question and answer periods or conversations with Commission members. Members of the public with questions are encouraged to contact staff before or after the meeting. Members of the public wishing to provide comments should either email questions to publiccomments@shra.org or present them verbally by calling 888-970-1444.
Thank you. So I understand we already have one comment to be read, so go ahead.
All right. So this is from Nikisha Barthel. Hi, my comment is regarding the PIH release for COVID-19 statutory and regulatory waivers and alternative requirements for the public housing choice voucher. I am a participant in the Family Self-Sufficiency Program. I love this program as it has allowed me the opportunity to become sufficient and build a future for my daughters and I. My graduation is quickly approaching on 8/31/21, which should be an exciting moment for me, but due to COVID-19, I had to stop working my 2 jobs and stop attending school in March and April of 2020. I've since found another job and plan to enroll back into school to finish my goals for self-sufficiency. The thing is, when I heard about this PIH notice waiver for statutory and regulatory waivers and alternative requirements, I reached out to my FSS worker for an extension of my graduation date, but was denied due to HUD regulatory, which are in quotation marks, HUD regulatory is what she says. Having my graduation date extended will allow back my time back that was taken from me due to COVID-19 mandates that were put into place. Can this please be reviewed, as I'm sure I'm not the only participant experiencing this? Thank you, Nikisha Barthel.
All right, cool. So I'm sure that's been referred to staff. Any other public comments? Written or called in? Okay. If not, we'll move on to the approval of minutes. Any corrections to the minutes?
So moved.
All right. If there's no corrections, the minutes will stand as submitted. So that takes us to business discussion. There's two items there. Lyra, could you read the titles for us, please?
The title of item 1 is Local Housing Trust Fund Application City Report. The title of item number 2 is Authority to apply for and accept funding from the California Department of Housing and Community Development for the 2021 Local Housing Trust Fund Program in an amount not to exceed $5 million to match on a dollar-for-dollar basis the fund. County report.
All right. And I believe Tyrone and can't see who else is with him is doing the presentation. Go ahead. You guys are muted.
How about this?
That sounds better.
All right.
And now I can see you, Christine. I know who it is.
I'm sorry. I thought we were being heard, but I'm so glad you told me I wasn't. So good evening, Christine Weigert from Development Finance. And the State Department of Housing and Community Development recently announced the notice of funding availability for their Local Housing Trust Fund program. The state program provides a dollar-for-dollar match for local housing trust funds, and applications are due to the state no later than August 3rd. SHRA will be submitting 2 applications for up to $5 million each, one on behalf of the city of Sacramento and one on behalf of the county of Sacramento. Both the city and county have 2 trust funds created by in lieu fees, one on new residential development and one on commercial development. And these funds are administered by SHRA and will be used as the match for the state program. Units funded through this program will be restricted to households earning 60% of area median income or less, and the funds will be administered through SHRA's multifamily housing and mortgage revenue bond program. The policies describe the priorities for funding a new affordable housing, multifamily housing development, and the program and matching funds will be used to provide permanent loans to subsidize new construction. Staff is requesting approval of SHRA applying for these local housing trust fund program on behalf of the city and county, and we're available to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Any questions of staff or from commissioners? And
Yes.
I'm having trouble seeing.
I
Go
think
ahead.
Jabu wants to say
Right.
something.
Christine, your audio is not good. Okay.
Oh, I will let our IT.
I can
Are you hearing any better now as I lean forward?
a little better, but you're sounding garbled.
I'm sorry. Do you want me to repeat the presentation, or was there parts you'd like me to repeat?
No, I'm just letting you know that it's not good.
Thank you. Is it better now?
It sounds better to me.
Great, thank you.
Any, I see Marisha has her hand up.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for the presentation. I had a couple questions. So is it 5 million each for the county and the city? Is that what you said?
Right, so we would have to, we'd apply for 5 million for the city of Sacramento and another application for the unincorporated county of Sacramento. So there's a possibility of SHRA getting $10 million. Of course, we'd only spend the city money in the city and the county money in the county. And of course, we would have to match those funds. So if we got, it could be, quite a significant amount of money if we were successful.
And my second question was, I was reading some of the documentation and it said minimum of 30% would be dedicated to people having 30% of the income, or clarify me if I'm not saying this right, but basically dedicated to like the lowest income individuals, a minimum of 30% of the funds. And I was just curious, like, how is that decided and why is that not higher, I guess, especially considering like what has happened during the pandemic? I was just more curious, like, why it's not minimum of 50% dedicated to the lowest income individuals.
You're absolutely right. So all the funds have to be spent for units at 60% or lower, but 30% of those funds have to be spent at 30% or lower. So in other words, 70% of the funds can be from that 60% AMI, and 30% of the funds at that extremely low income. I mean, I think it's the state's program. I think they wanted to make sure that some of the funds were spent, about a third, on extremely low income, which are usually, permanent supportive housing or homeless units, which we fund a lot of. In fact, it's our #1 funding priority. But that does give jurisdictions the flexibility to go up to 60% on some of the funds.
Thank you.
Can you tell us what AMI stands for?
Sure, it's area median income. And I have those numbers. I should have had it. I believe it's about $45,000 for a family at 60% of area median income right now in Sacramento.
So to clarify, that would be a minimum of 30% on the 30%, but you could, if the opportunity arose, spend 100% of it on less than 30% AMI.
Sure, that 30% is extremely low. So we could spend all of it on extremely low income homeless developments, which we may do.
And I think if I could, I think it's important for us to really understand that there are, and we at SMUD have been dealing with what we call the new low income. They might not qualify given, they might not fall into that 60%, but they will fall into that 30%. And there's quite a few, it's a growing segment of people who are just outside of getting some of the resources that other folks are getting. So it's an important demographic, an important segment on that spectrum, of that low income spectrum. So it's a real issue. And hopefully as we come out of this kind of COVID economic time, people will go back to working, back to jobs, and we're also seeing incomes going up, $15 an hour. So, but that segment, that 30%, and I'm sure she can tell you more, but that segment is a real segment of people out there who are not quite low income, but just enough to need the help.
All right, is there any other questions or comments of commissioners? I see no hands waving, at least from here. I feel handicapped. I only have one screen tonight. So, have there been any?
Oh, I was going to say, should we make a motion then to approve both items 1 and 2?
Well, I was going to check and see if we had any public comment before we do that.
That's fine.
There's no public comment.
Okay, then I am open to a motion.
So I make a motion to approve items 1 and 2.
A second.
Gail, you're on mute.
I was using my alternate, press the space bar, and it wasn't working apparently. So that was probably typing spaces in the chat or something. Anyway, we have a motion and a second. So can we have roll call, please, Lyra?
Amanfor?
Aye.
Boyd?
Aye.
Griffin?
He's not here.
Oh, geez. Morgan?
Aye.
Osmany?
Aye.
Nunley?
Aye.
Ross?
Aye.
Schumacher Hodge?
Aye.
Stajabu?
Aye.
Starks?
Yes.
Wu?
Aye.
The motion carries.
All right. Thank you very much. So that takes us to the presentation and the tour, if you will. Take it away, guys.
My name is Brenda Barber, and I wanted to share with you my experience with the RAD program and the renovations. I want to talk about the light fixtures outside. The light fixtures are a certain kind of light where they are not unscrewed. They come on, they're very bright. It makes me feel, and a lot of us tenants here, more safer that it's lit up. They are energy savers. That's for the outside. The inside, the cabinets are bigger. They're we have two big burners that in the kitchen, and we also have nice flooring where before it was cracked. And in our bathroom, we have a toilet which is water saver, and the shower head, which it comes out really nice, not pouring, no leaky faucet, a lower tub to get in and get out. Our light fixtures in the walls, we did not have no light fixtures up in the walls. We would have to use lamps. And so now we have light fixtures in every room. We have them in the hall where they come bright and nice and energy savers, and in the kitchen. And so I think that's it. Thank you.
That concludes the video presentation.
I thought we would have more than that.
Well, look, maybe next year after COVID, we can get on the bus and you can experience it up close and in person.
Mr. Williams? Mr. Williams, is Mr. Hamilton there?
Mr. Hamilton does not appear to be here.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So are there any questions? I'll turn it back over to Commissioner Gil Morgan to navigate the raised hands, but we're available to answer questions.
Okay, Barry has a question. Go ahead, Barry.
Thank you, Chair. But before I go, I don't believe I've met Mr. Martin Ross. He had his hand up. I don't know if he is part of the presentation, but I'll let him go prior to my question.
Mr. Chair, I didn't, because I was late, I didn't get it. I thought maybe you guys would have already introduced our guy, but we have, if I could, Mr. Martin Ross is the man, and we're so happy that he's joining us on this board. And I've had the pleasure of working with him and seeing the great things he's done with the Salvation Army as one of in their leadership team. And so I just wanted to give you my personal, this is a great guy for this board. And I'll shut up after that. Martin.
Okay, Sam, you're supposed to wait until the chair's report for that.
I'm not waiting.
So
well, in that case, hold on, Mr. Ross. Seniority, just kidding. But let me go ahead and ask my question. Welcome aboard, and we'll get to you at the end of the meeting. Sam is just always quick on the trigger sometimes.
Just as I can, seniority.
There you go. But my question is, Deputy Executive Director Williams, had to get the whole title rolled out there. In regards to the presentation where it's stated on several of the properties having either increased, improved, or upgrades, i.e. ADA. If someone would walk me through what the increased ADA accessibility, the improved ADA accessibility, and the upgrades of ADA accessibility in the different properties are, that would be wonderful.
So
I'm sorry, Lyra.
No, so we intended to have a presentation with this item. However, that hasn't happened. What I can tell you about the property is that before, I believe they're completely flat for wheelchairs now. The entries to the restroom, the community room, and the restroom, the community room, and the laundry room. And they're also, the doors are also wider than they were before.
So I was just
Okay.
scanning over the list looking for somebody who could answer the question more in depth, and I don't see anybody there.
I thought Lyra
So
did a good job.
yes, what I'll say, because I've visited many of these properties myself. I will say that I have heard positive comments from the residents on the improvements. I have been out to see some of the improvements, not all of them, but I will say that ADA improvements are a big concern, not only to Sam, but to and Barry and Daryl and Cecile and so everybody. So all of us are concerned about that, and the agency has also shown much a strong intent to make things better for those that are disabled. And Mark just joined us, and I'm going to turn this question over to him. Bastard, he knows what happened. So, Mark, welcome to our meeting tonight. We just saw the video, and your comments are welcome.
Great. Sorry, was there a question that was being asked?
Actually,
Daryl asked about ADA improvements.
Oh, okay. What in particular in regards to the ADA improvements?
Well, Daryl may have asked, but I know I did as well. But
until today.
The question was, on several of the properties, Lyra did go through a explanation of some of the improvements, and my question was, just so since you're just joining us, what are the increased, the improved, and the upgrade ADA accessibility for the different apartments, or excuse me, the different properties? And again, Lyra did go through some of the items, and then Chairman Morgan stated he was looking for, I think, more, maybe a little bit more than what was offered from Lyra.
So
Okay.
Mark,
That
what I did say is I talked about widening the doors and making sure that the ground is level, particularly in entries to the laundry room, community room, and the restrooms. But I didn't talk about any of the other cement work or anything like that. So.
Right. So we had to meet all building code and unit code for ADA improvements. For tax credits, we had to make a certain number of units. 7% or 10% of the units at each of the properties had to be fully ADA. So you have to be able to maneuver a wheelchair through the unit. You need to have certain clearances, so 36 inches of clearance, and you need to be able to fully open and close a door. There's also a height requirement and a height adjustment that we had to do on all cabinets and countertops. We also had to provide ADA appliances in each of those ADA units. For the common areas, I think Lyra kind of already went over it, where we adjusted cabinet height. We did have to level the floor. We have to make sure that there's a clear path of travel from any of those community buildings, from those ADA residents, all the way to if there's an office on the site, if there's a community building on site. We have to make sure that that path of travel is ADA. And so we did that for this entire project. All 6 sites.
Fantastic. Just so I heard you, I believe your first sentence out was SHRA was not at first meeting the ADA requirements, but now SHRA has met the requirements on these properties, right?
Well, think about when these properties were originally built. Code was very different. We had a lot of these properties were originally built in the 70s and 80s. And now in 2021, of course, there are new ADA requirements where we have to have either a higher number of units available, or there's just been changes to the code. So as we're kind of going through the rehab work, we're bringing the properties up to current code.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
If it helps, Barry, most of the ADA code came into being around 1986, 87 in that neighborhood. So a lot of those requirements would not be in place in buildings built in 1972, like Capitol Terrace, which they're doing major remodeling. Thank you, Mark. I know I threw you in the fire as soon as you showed up, but.
Oh, no worries. My apologies for being tardy to the.
Yeah, if I could just jump in real quick, I appreciate that, Chairman Morgan. The reason I asked, I wasn't clear on my question to Mr. Hamilton when he stated that SHRA was not meeting the ADA requirement. I believe he was stating in regards to a current grant that SHRA was seeking, but since SHRA was not up to code, but now currently are up to code to get the grant. But I wasn't asking in regards to the properties from pre-1986, pre-1972. I wasn't clear on my question. My apologies. Thank you, all.
Yeah, we're up. The remodel brings them up to code, to current day. So, I don't see other hands raised.
Martin,
Mark, did you have any presentation you wanted to give?
Martin had his hand up. You probably aren't seeing that.
I don't see that.
Yeah, Martin, go ahead.
Hi, this is Martin. How are you? Thanks for allowing me to share. So I have a few questions. The presentation was really good. I'm glad to get to know and see some of the properties and the orientation. Lyra did a great job, identifying some of the properties. So I appreciate your help. She's been very helpful in getting me oriented. So thank you, Lyra. One of the things I wanted to ask about the presentation, would we, as the commissioners, be able to have the video tour sent to us so we could have that presentation? Because I would definitely like to, on my own, go out and check out and review some of the properties myself, just walking around and seeing what's happening. I would also be curious to see if we could get a full listing of all the properties that SHRA oversees so that we could take a look at those. I don't think there was a full listing of all the properties. And the reason I wanted some of the listing is because like on the Walegra property, I was not sure if I could see what the front of that building looked like. I think it went straight into the interior. So it'd be helpful to see how it looks like, what it looks like on the exterior as well as the interior. The other aspect that I wanted to know, because it looked like there were community centers at some of the facilities. So is there a particular demographic that one of the facilities might be serving? Would it be, I know everyone would be lower in their income, but would it be seniors or a mixed group of ages?
So to answer your question, we have community centers at a variety of different properties. For the RAD pilot, we have the community centers only at the 2 senior properties. And then, but we do have community centers at our other multifamily properties.
Okay, I'm going to call in also because somehow my video is unstable and I got booted off the phone for some reason, so we'll see how that goes, but I'll try to go on as long as I can. So I don't know, Mark, if I couldn't hear your response because I disappeared for a few seconds. So I was curious about the demographics that each of those properties focus on.
So 2 out of the 6 serve seniors, Martin, and then 4 of them are multifamily.
Okay, great. So if we're able to get that listing, would it be identified what those properties serve?
We should be able to provide that with the identity of the populations that those properties serve.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. And then my last question would be, I do have a little bit of a engineering background, and given what happened in Surf City, Florida, I believe that's the area, what it's called, Surf City or Surfside, Florida. And Mark, you mentioned the buildings were in their 70s and 80s, and I saw a couple of high-rise buildings. I've run into some property issues where some catastrophic things happen, and we would have thought that the building was secure and solid. It had to do with some basketball hoops at one point in time coming out off of the walls and almost taking off a young child's neck. They appeared to be secure, but they weren't. So my question would be, for some of our older buildings that are high rise, have we had structural engineers take a look at those on a regular basis, and are those in good shape?
So we do perform a physical needs assessment on those properties. The last one that we conducted was in 2017. HUD requires that you do a P&A every 5 years. So we're due within a couple of years, but also part of the pre-development process, we do have an engineer evaluate those buildings, along with an architect when they're coming up with conceptual drawings.
So we wouldn't be running into any Florida issues of, a building being deemed unstable, even though some engineers and so forth have taken a look at it. We wouldn't run into that because there's an inspection that takes place every 5 years?
That's correct. We have, none of our buildings are in that poor of structural shape.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, are there any other questions? Seeing none, we're going to move on to the Executive Director's report.
Well, I'm Tyrone Roderick Williams, and I'm sitting in for Lachelle Dozier. I'm the Deputy Executive Director here at SHRA over development. So the Executive Director's report, the commission meeting that's scheduled for July the 21st is canceled. And the next commission meeting is scheduled for August 4th. That's August 4th. That concludes the Executive Director's report.
All right, thank you, Tyrone. And for the Commission Chair report, even though we've all been introduced sort of, I would like to welcome Martin Ross to the Commission tonight. And it's nice to have an engineer on the staff, I'll say it that way. Welcome aboard, Martin, and hopefully you'll enjoy bantering with the rest of us, and we'll have fun. Anyway, I think I see your phone on there now, so it's all good.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to join all of you. I know a few of you. I've met, well, I know Sam. I've got a chance to interact with Lyra, and I know Tyrone, Mr. Williams, or excuse me, Commissioner Starks. I know Commissioner Starks from different venues, and Mr. Williams from other interactions and venues when I was a Salvation Army officer for about 20 years. My wife and I, we were in charge of all the social services for the city of Sacramento. My last stint was up in Seattle, but I've served in Scottsdale and Compton, Modesto, Lodi, and then Sacramento. And then I decided to leave Seattle in good standing with my wife and come back to this area here where I grew up. So I grew up going to high school here in Sacramento and all my K through 12, and definitely committed to serving. I've always been a public servant. Played steel drums, congas, speak Spanish relatively fluently. Currently, I'm the executive director for an organization that works with the formerly incarcerated and homeless individuals for workforce development. And I'd like to be in the innovative side in trying to help improve our communities and look at rudimentary issues and problem solving and strategy. So it's a pleasure to serve, and I hope I can be of added value. I'm in District 3, and glad to be here. So thank you, everyone. And I know some of you, and I hope to get to know all of you well. Thank you.
All right. I'm having a little audio problem here myself right now. So I'll throw it open to item and question of commission and members.
Chairman, I do have two things. One, I'd like to again welcome Commissioner Ross. Welcome aboard. And I'm just trying to think. District 3 is Harris. What high school is that? What high school did you graduate from?
Well, I graduated from San Juan High School. It's in the Carmichael area, District 3, under Supervisor Rich Desmond.
I won't hold that against you. Just kidding. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Thank you.
Michael, or Martin actually replaces Michael Alkali. That gives you an area of coverage. So you know where he's at out there. Okay, I don't see any hands up. I don't see anybody waving at me. Anything else?
Actually,
go ahead, Barry.
I almost forgot my second thing. To Deputy Executive Director Williams, he likes being called that. Look at that smile. Commissioner Ross, yes, we are pretty loose. We take care of serious business, but we can be pretty loose. But with that said, Brother Tyrone, when you have opportunity, I would actually come stepping away from SHRA and would like to see, if not receive, your presentation on the Juneteenth celebration that you did for the SHRA family a couple of weeks ago. Unfortunately, I was away from a stationary position, so I was just coming in and out of it. But from what I watched, it was fantastic. And for any of you who may not have had the opportunity to view it, let me state, if you have opportunity, if Deputy Executive Director Williams would make that available to you, it is worth watching. Thank you.
I will second that.
Okay. Larry, could we have that link sent to all of the commissioners so that it's available to everyone?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you. And thank you, Commissioner Boyd.
I enjoyed that presentation also. I think you did a very good job on that, Tyra.
Thank you, sir.
So, anybody else have questions or comments? Okay, lack of seeing any or hearing anyone, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you all.
Well, good evening, everyone.
Take care. All right, Martin. Nice seeing you, buddy.
For sure. Good to see everyone. All right. Good to see you, Sam.